'cause all that they serve you are opinionated views. Don't switch on my TV, 'cause all they do is lie. And I don't need no programming telling me what to buy. But I believe the truth will set you free. I believe the truth will set you free. I don't believe in aliens. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in war. What are the reasons why they're for? Don't believe celebrities pretending to be what they ain't. Make poverty history, they say, both innocent. But I believe.
Now, do you both think you've been told the truth about the world in which you live in?
Told by who? Yeah.
Well, exactly. By who? The mainstream media, government, newspapers, TV?
I'd say probably not.
I want to say the truth is subjective.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any objective truths?
No.
No?
No.
Could I put one to you?
Sure.
There's three entities here talking.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
So, I would suggest that we can have self-evident truths.
Right.
Like water's wet, fire's hot. So there would be objective truths, would there?
Yeah.
Like self-evident truths. What shape do you think the Earth is?
It's round.
Sorry?
Round.
What was the question?
What shape's the
What
Earth?
shape do you think the Earth is?
Yeah, it's a sphere.
A sphere. The degree of a sphere.
Yeah.
Could I ask you both why you think that?
That's what I've been told, and then
You could see
based
the
off of pictures.
Distortion.
Distortion?
Yeah. Looking towards the horizon, especially during sunset.
Alright. What do you mean? What have you seen on the horizon?
We see the changing of the colors as the diffraction from the gases changes.
And what does that suggest?
It suggests that you're filtering out different wavelengths as the sun's approaching the horizon.
Have you ever seen evidence of a curvature?
From a plane?
Yeah, airplane.
Did you ever take any evidence of that, a photograph or a video?
I think so.
No. So, I mean, I would suggest there is no curvature. So,
You think the Earth's flat?
well, I know it's not round. I know it's not a ball.
What do you think it is?
I don't know.
I mean, I think scientifically it makes sense that it's a ball.
Yeah.
Could you tell me what makes sense to you then?
Well, just the
Gravity.
the setting of the sun, how we kind of orbit the Earth, and we have this seasonal, predictability, I guess it is.
Could I suggest to you that gravity has never been proven?
Okay.
There's no evidence that gravity exists. So wait, we got a wee exercise to do that again.
Well, I think gravity is just a term for
An observable phenomenon, right?
yeah, or because mass produces an attraction, which is also a scientific proof, and then so that attraction, because of how massive the Earth is, keeps us here.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that as well up to 3 years ago. But have you got any evidence for that actually happens? That mass attracts, larger masses attract smaller masses.
Well, we're going around the sun.
Are we?
Yeah.
Can you prove that to me?
Well, I mean, I can't prove it to you right now,
Right.
but if you look at the way the stars work,
But
patterns in the stars and the seasons, and
Yeah, I
it
can
all,
see-
it all is easily explained by having a circular motion around the sun, an elliptical, if you will.
yes, yeah, and
So-
I believe that totally. But what if I said to you, we're not moving? It's the stars that are moving, not us.
Well, they tried that model, and they had to do a lot of like weird spinny things for the planets to make sense in their orbits. But if they put the sun in the middle and have the Earth go around it, then the mathematics becomes a lot more simplified. And that's why people started believing that the Earth was no longer the center, starting with Copernicus, I believe.
Copernicus,
Yeah, because he showed like, listen, we can have like, in order to explain the motions of the planets in the sky, people were creating like they were going around Earth, but then they were also doing like little loops in their own orbits, which was a strange thing. But they found that, okay, if we take the Earth out of the center, then all of these patterns of the planets makes a lot more sense. It's a lot more easily described by having things going around the sun.
Yeah. Could I ask you, how do you know these planets actually exist?
You can see them. You can see Mars on a clear day.
Yeah. You can see it on a clear day through your telescope.
Yeah.
But you don't see 3D, do you?
Well, I mean, it's hard. I guess you could say it's in 3D.
Well, no, we can't see that distance in 3D. We can only see in 2D. So,
Right.
so we can't prove it's a sphere, though, can we?
Well, I mean, if you believe satellite pictures and stuff like that.
I mean,
No.
I think beyond a reasonable doubt, it's definitely. A
I mean,
sphere.
what's the purpose of not believing it? Yeah.
Right.
Well, if we go to satellite pictures, do you know there's no satellites in space? I would give you £2,000 now if you could find footage of a real satellite in space.
I mean, you can see them flying
Yeah,
by.
you can see them flying by.
Yeah.
You can't prove that's a satellite where you get the
You can because they don't twinkle. They move in a steady motion across the sky.
Yes, but how can you verify that's actually a satellite up in space?
Well, if you got yourself a telescope and looked at it.
Yeah, but you can't see any detail on it, though.
And actually, you can see, on certain days, you can see the International Space Station pass during the day. You can look at that.
Yeah, I know, but you only have to be up 7 miles and you can't see a football pitch from up there, so how on earth we could see an International Space Station from here?
You can see it. It glimmers.
Yeah, but there's no evidence that there's astronauts on board that, is there?
Well, I mean, I think you could go to Cape Carnival and watch a rocket shoot off into the sky.
Yeah, I do. Do you watch the full trajectory path of the rockets? Because it goes off in a curve and it starts to come down again.
So you think they just... What?
There's nobody on those
Let me
rockets.
ask you a question. What's the whole exercise of making everyone believe that the planet is circular? Like, why? What's the point of convincing people of that?
Well,
what is it to achieve?
I mean, I'm not trying to convince people, so I don't really know the real reason for that.
Okay, but that would be an important question to ask yourself. If you think there's this conspiracy where everyone's trying to convince us that the Earth's round, yeah, the question is why? Why would they? What's the point of
Yes, but
all these scientists colluding together to convince everyone that the Earth's round when it's not? Just is it a big laugh at us or something like that?
Well, yes, but I think the second question should be that. The first question should be establishing the fact of the matter. Like if you go to a crime scene, you have to establish the crime first before you find out why the murder was committed.
Sure, that's true.
Well,
but there's certain. So I guess there are certain things that you can't prove one way or the other, and you just have to go off of visual imagery and say, yeah, that's a reasonable thing to consider. And
Yeah. Could I give you a reasonable thing to consider?
Sure.
See, when you drop that dirt to the ground,
Yeah.
why could that not be density? Because the molecules of that substance is heavier than molecules of the air, so it drops.
Right.
Like a helium balloon molecules is lighter than air, so it rises. So we don't need gravity to explain why something drops to the ground. In fact, gravity's never been proven.
Well, they use gravity to shoot rockets around the Earth, so
Yeah, but you don't know that, though.
I believe it.
It's a belief there.
Well, I mean, when you have, let's say, 95% of scientists who study this saying it's real, I don't suspect that they're colluding with each other.
No, I don't suspect they are either, but they could be deceived themselves, could they not?
They could be deceiving themselves, you're saying?
I mean, the math
Yeah.
doesn't lie at a certain point, and we use gravity every day to do
Yeah.
things.
Mathematics don't prove anything. All they do is explain. It's a language that explains things, but it doesn't actually prove anything.
Well, we use math every day to make things work. Like your car is based off of mathematical models.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yes.
So is to say that math doesn't explain anything. Yes, it is a tool that we use, and one of the things that we use in math is gravity.
See if
It might not be true, but it is a functioning idea for humans to use and
I mean-
and get things done.
it's just that gravity is not measurable. It can't be proven.
I mean, it is measurable.
Could you tell me how?
Well, if you drop something towards Earth, it accelerates at 9.8 meters per second.
Yeah, but I just explained
Square.
density explains things falling.
Yeah,
through.
but the density doesn't change the rate at which something falls down
Right.
to the ground.
If it was-
So a
if it was-
paper falls at the same rate as that rock does.
Right.
The only difference is that
Mass.
you have air that would allow the paper to fall slower, so you have a natural friction that prevents it. But the rock and the paper fall at the same speed.
Right, and
So
think-
that's
if I
the
dropped a rock
explanation.
and paper now, you think it would drop to the same speed to the ground?
They
if
would
you crumpled it up into a ball.
like it's if you drop this, and this is obviously,
Yeah, it's the same basically.
but if you put the paper on top of the rock and then dropped it, and you remove the air resistance, then they would drop at the same
I think they
speed.
pretty much dropped at the same speed.
Yeah, from that height, yes. But they're about the same weight. That's a very small rock.
It's true.
Now, if you use a large rock and a piece of paper, they're not going to fall at the same rate from a great height.
Well, take a bowling ball and a soccer ball and drop them from the same height. I guarantee they'll hit the ground at the same time. And they have completely different densities. One's filled with air and one's filled
well,
with...
I think you should do that exercise.
Oh, I did. We did it
Alright.
in like 4th grade. I watched the science teacher do it.
And from what height was that?
I stood up on like a, I don't know, probably like
2-story.
about 2 meters. Yeah.
2 meters.
Yeah, about
Yeah, but
2-3 meters. Dropped it.
like your friend said, it was over a few stories high. I don't think it was dropped at the same time.
But they would.
Okay. Have you got any evidence of that? Did you film it?
I mean, no, but I watched it happen.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but all due respect, it's still word of mouth, though. You know.
No, I mean, I watched it. I literally watched it with my own eyes.
I watched Loch Ness Monster last week.
Really? Can we go see it?
Is there any possibility, right? Just any possibility that maybe what you've been told about the shape of the Earth could be wrong?
What have we been told about what?
The shape of the Earth. Do you think there's any possibility that what you know about it is not true?
In my mind, no.
Yeah.
No doubt whatsoever.
No.
Now, don't you think we should always have a bit of doubt and questioning in our heads rather than 100% believing?
But I think to his point, at a certain point, there's no advantage to anybody to consider anything but what they tell you, because everything in the modern world and how we live is based off of the Earth being round and centered around the sun, and so it's a fair assumption to believe, and it helps with just general functionality.
You know, I lived in China 2 years ago, and when I went there, I traveled west to get there, and when I came back, I traveled west again.
Yeah.
So how did I continuously go west and end up back in the United States?
Well, if you put something on the ground there, if you stood behind me and you were the continents of the Earth, and I walked around you, I would come back to the same place, wouldn't I?
If you walked around me?
Yeah.
I don't think I understand what you mean.
Well, you're the whole continents of the Earth.
Yeah, so he's saying...
And I walk around you.
You're not a round circle. You could still orbit around you and end up in the same location.
Yeah, but we didn't go around the edges.
Yeah, but how do you know you went around the edges?
Well, because we landed in the Middle East first, and then we flew on to Europe from there.
Yeah, but that's not the edges, is it?
Well, I came from China.
Middle
right?
East.
Well,
So I came from Chicago to China, and then China to the Middle East to Europe, and then back to the United States, all going west. And yet you can see that we're going west because we're the sunset.
And I worked on a ship that sailed all the way around the world on a boat. So I mean, that's pretty certain that went.
So you observed the horizon quite a lot, didn't you?
Yeah.
So did you ever see the curvature? That's not even on.
No, I
You
mean
can't see the curvature.
It's too big to observe. Yeah.
It's like the curvature's too slight to see it from the ground. You have to go up.
The curvature's too big.
It's too gradual.
Yeah, it's too gradual.
Have you ever seen ships going over the horizon?
Yeah, I think so.
So that's contradictory then, isn't it?
Why is that contradictory?
You just said the Earth's too big to see the curvature, but yet you can see a ship going over the
What is it? What is, you can see the horizon is like
10 miles?
13 or something like that miles off. So once you get past that point, you can't. The Earth is curved enough to where you can't see any farther.
About like this, if the Earth was flat, the sun would set at the same time everywhere on the planet.
Why?
Because if you have a flat surface,
Yeah.
and you have the angle of the sun here,
Yes.
as it goes down, that angle is going to be the same for everything on this plane.
What if that sun was a lot?
So if I take the angle here, say this is Edinburgh, you take the angle there, let's say it's 20,
Yeah.
and if I take the angle here, it's still going to be 20.
Yeah.
So the sun would set at the same time, but we know that it doesn't.
What if the sun was a lot smaller and it's a lot closer to Earth and it was revolving around the Earth?
It's still the same issue. Like the sun would set at the same time everywhere on the planet if it was flat. Because you have the curvature, you have like the sun going beyond the horizon at certain places and still appearing in other parts of the planet.
Yeah, but if the sun was more like a torch beam rather than a huge planet, when it's away in Australia, I wouldn't be seeing it because it's a lot smaller, a lot closer to the Earth than we're told it is.
But that still doesn't affect like the time of the setting of the sun.
Why would it not? Because as it circles around the Earth.
Take for example, what you can do is you can go home, take yourself a map and lay it down on the table, right? And then take a light and just shine it and see how it sets on the map.
Yeah. But I've done that with a torch beam, and you go round the Earth. So when it's round here, the sun is completely away from it.
Oh, you mean
where
like you're just shining a light on the thing and then moving it over?
Yeah, you move it round. So the moon and the sun is circling around the Earth.
This way.
Yeah.
Then how the sun would set you would have daytime in the northern hemisphere and nighttime in the southern hemisphere if it worked that way. Whereas it changes from the west to east.
Yes, but it depends how close the sun is to the edge. Due to the seasons, it can come in closer or it can go out further.
Does that seem more reasonable than having a round planet? Like a giant
Absolutely. Can I put it to you that water on a ball, does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, I mean you can see it right over there.
Oh yeah, the water over there is completely flat though.
Well, it looks flat.
But then we should trust our eyes and our senses, not what we're told. Now, do you think it's sensible to accept that water can exist to the exterior of a shape?
To what?
To the exterior of a shape.
Can stick to it, you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, it's gravity once again.
Well, but then you can't prove that.
Well, didn't we just prove it? That the
No,
dropping the rock
because I said that was density.
Right, but the density of the paper and the rock are definitely different. Undeniably, they might weigh the same.
Well,
The size of it spread over the mass, so you would have a much lower density in paper than you have in a rock.
But different things have a different density.
Right? And according to you, they would fall at different rates then, right? If it was a density dependent, but it's not.
If it was exceedingly different density, but if the density is very similar, then you're not going to see much difference in speed to the ground.
What you can do is take like a big rock and a football, go over to the monument over there and stand up on the top of that and drop them.
Well, why don't you go and do that now and I'll film you doing it?
Or do we have a football?
Or you could go up to that tower and drop it off the tower.
Yeah, we can do that too.
And I could film you.
Well, I don't have a football.
But the thing is that what we're neglecting is the air resistance that's going to change.
Well, the ball should be about the same size as each other. Let's say they had the exact same diameter, they would fall exactly at the same pace. Yeah.
Do you see when you said you see ships on the horizon? Now I've done this exercise myself, and you can see plenty of people uploading it to YouTube. You can stand on the beach and people can't see the ship anymore because they think it's going over the horizon, the curve. Now people use their zoom-in camera or telescope and they zoom into that ship and they see the bottom of the ship again, proving it's not going over the curvature, it's just going out of your perspective. It's out of your line of perspective. Now you can see plenty of proofs on that on YouTube. You can see people just zooming in and then they're spotting the boat again.
Well, those are two, that can easily be two different phenomena that you're observing. One is like the ability of someone to see far, and the other one is the curvature of the Earth. And if someone can't see as far as the curvature of the Earth, then of course it disappears before it reaches the curvature itself. Those could easily be two things in coherence with each other. They don't have to be, it's not one or the other. You know, that's a false, to say that, oh, because someone can't see it anymore, and you zoom in, you can see it, then therefore there is no curvature.
Yes, I know, but that's a sort of a defence mechanism, because people claim the boat's going over the horizon, and then as soon as you prove it's not by photographic evidence, you go, oh, it's just because it's too far for us to see. I said, no, you initially said it's going over the curvature. And that's just proving it's not going over the curvature.
Yeah, but if you sat there and watched it with your zoom camera,
at some point it would
disappear. And it doesn't matter how much of a zoom camera you got.
It will disappear.
It would disappear.
But does it disappear to your line of perspective?
No.
Or the curvature?
You could easily prove this once again. So you could get yourself like a 50mm lens and watch the ship. And then when it went out of view of the 50mm, take off that, put on an 80mm lens, and just keep doing that.
Yes.
Then at a certain point, you could have like a 300mm lens, and you're not going to see the boat regardless, because it's just going to have gone over the horizon, and there's no way for you to see it. The only way for you to see it would be to go up higher.
Yeah. Yes, you could go up higher, yes, but there's no actual evidence of curvature. Now we're told the curvature is 8 inches per mile squared, so at 10 miles you shouldn't see any boat. It should be way below the curvature.
Oh, so it is 10 miles.
But we
had that right.
Yeah. But we can see things at 10, 20 miles away, proving that there's no curvature. I can see lighthouses at 20 miles away, like 60-foot lighthouse, 20 miles away. So that proves there's no curvature. There's no evidence of any curvature. Now I'll put it to you that I know it's difficult for you because the whole life you believed it, and you got one crazy guy here in a park saying perhaps you've been lied to. Now this is the biggest thing on the internet at the moment, because so many people now know we don't live on the ball, and we've got scientific evidence proving that we can't possibly live on the ball. And we've all been lied to all our lives, and we were told about 5 years old at school, and we totally accepted it.
Let me put this question to you again though. Why? Why were they lying?
Yeah, but that's complete avoidance of discussing the facts of the matter.
I think it's an important question to ask. If we were to believe that we were lied to, why the hell would anyone go through the trouble of convincing everyone that was a circle? It wasn't. It seems like a total asinine thing to waste your time. You know what, it'll be a funny joke. Let's convince everyone the Earth is a sphere, and then we'll teach kids it, and then everyone will have a good laugh.
It is a good laugh, isn't it?
But why? Why would they do that?
I mean, when you really think about it, water on a ball, I mean, come on.
But still,
5 years old, you might have believed that.
But still, like, the fundamental question is, why would they do that? And if you could give me a good answer for that, you could sow some doubt in my mind.
Yeah, but
until someone gives me a reason why scientists would collude together to lie to
But
everybody.
why are you expecting me to give you an answer when I'm not the one that's lying to you about it?
Well, because you're convinced that they are lying. So,
Yes, I am.
So you must have considered why they were
Yes,
lying.
I have.
I've never considered them lying. I just assumed from...
Well, I'll tell you why I think it is, but a few people have told me you have to mention the God angle because you could be hiding God. I said, well, okay, but that's not my bag.
hiding God.
That is a possibility of God exists, but I think it's because...
But if it's God, like, he would just be like, you can't hide me, I'm God. You couldn't, if God was God and he was up there and people are trying to hide it from people,
Well,
God still's God. It's not like just because they're hiding him, he's not seeable anymore,
Yeah.
you know? Like, that would be
I think
silly.
it's the idea, keeping the idea of God away, but that's not my angle. My angle is that I think they're hiding far more land. And we're convinced us that we're on a wee spinning ball. So we don't go looking for land any further, do we? Because we think it's space out there.
So you think there are people that know about and own this land but are keeping it from the general public?
Yeah. So it's just like a pen, a zoo we're in.
What do you think happens when you die?
Yeah, I've not been concerned with what happens when I die. I'm more concerned with what happens when I'm living.
But if you think you live in a zoo, it doesn't really matter, because if you didn't live in a zoo or you did live in a zoo, the same thing happens when you die.
Yeah, exactly. Your own continent. So I think there's a contradictory in sizes there.
They're at different angles.
How do you know they're different angles? But could I ask you why you immediately jump to defensive rather than saying, oh yeah, that just doesn't look right. You're defending it straight away. Did you notice that?
Does that convince you?
It doesn't convince me. I mean,
Does it make you doubt it?
no, not
No?
really.
No.
No.
I'm pretty much not gonna believe that the Earth's flat.
No, but would you not look into it?
I mean, it's reasonable.
I'm curious to do the ship experiment just so next time I had this conversation with somebody, I can
feel
say that I watched
and it's
the
also
ship.
reasonable to consider all possibilities. So there's no reason
Absolutely,
just
yeah.
to deny it.
Well, to
You
a certain extent.
certain extent, yeah.
That's the sun rays. Now, if that was 93 million miles away, it wouldn't have coming down at an angle like that. That's telling you the sun is a lot closer.
So how close do you think the sun is?
3,000 miles away.
Oh, really?
I'll show you.
Do you think the sun will burn out?
I don't know. I would just ask you to watch the guy in the background of the International Space Station. This is on NASA's own website now. Do you see anything unusual with that?
He's got a harness on. Yeah, he's got a
It's
harness.
suspended from a wire.
Yeah.
They forgot to cut that one out. There's hundreds of these anomalies you can research yourself.
Uh-huh.
You know, they're not on the International Space Station.
Once again, why?
Yeah, ultimately that would be my question. Is like, it's fine. If your theory, if it's reasonable, it's reasonable. But why are they telling you otherwise?
Why should I
Well,
doubt?
I think, guys, you're avoiding looking at the facts because you want to know why.
Well, it's the same thing with the religion. Like, somebody says God exists and God is here for you. So the real question you shouldn't say is yes or no, God exists. Your question is why does he exist? What's the advantage of God being alive or not? It's the same thing. What's the advantage of somebody telling you?
Well, I don't know, but I'd rather prove the existence of it or not, rather than ask why is he there.
Some things you can't prove. Like, for example, you can't prove God exists.
Because if I'm being truthful to myself, surely you have to say you're agnostic, because you'll never find out either way.
Right, true. And I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
I would say.
But with the shape of the Earth, I can find out. I can prove untruths that's been told to me. Especially when you get gloves with a finger poking out in space.
You should.
You know, it's ridiculous.
You should watch a couple of videos about Copernicus and how they went from a Earth-centric to a heliocentric model. And I think a little background knowledge
Copernicus,
on
who was a Jesuit priest and a Freemason. Yes.
and they all were.
Well, all the astronauts in space are Freemasons.
Oh, so it's a Freemason conspiracy.
Did you know that about 7 astronauts died or killed just before the moon landings? One of them, Gus, forget his...
Ferguson?
Sorry?
Isn't there astronaut Gus Ferguson? Is that
No,
his name?
no. But Grimson, Gus Grimson, he was speaking publicly saying this no way will make it to the moon. This module couldn't fly there. We don't have the technology. This can't go that far.
Mm-hmm.
So he was saying this publicly. In fact, he hung a lemon from his capsule, saying there's no way we'll make it to the moon. And this was about a year and a half before the moon landings.
Okay.
So him and 2 astronauts were in the capsule going for a space launch, and he was burnt to death. And another 4 astronauts were killed soon after.
Oh, you mean when they got stuck inside the...
Well, it just...
And they had a fire.
It just went in fire.
Yeah.
He was... And his son is saying he was killed. He was deliberately killed because he was speaking out against it. And also, his lawyer or his advisor, he was killed as well.
At a certain point, the moon landing will become mythology. I do believe
It'll
that.
be what?
Become mythology.
Mythology.
I mean, it's only been 50
It's
years.
mythology now, isn't it?
No. I mean, it happened.
Why do you think it happened though?
Because why not?
Yeah, I mean...
Have you not researched it?
I mean, but it's like it's a good story. There's no reason not to believe it. And the other thing is, it at one point will become the building block to the expansion of our species. And so, if I believe the model that the sun is going to burn out at some point in time, we're going to have to leave this planet. And so, believing that we are capable of doing that is in a way to believe the existence or the human race will survive, I guess. So that's I think for me there's no reason to question it. It's just like, yeah, okay.
For me,
it's cool.
What about
there's just not reasonable doubt about it.
What about the light on the moon? You got light from different angles and different sources. It should only be one angle. All the shadows are in different directions. That's what happens in a studio. And on the moon, I don't know about you, but when I climb the mountains here in Scotland, one of the first things I do is I do a 360. Nobody on the moon did a 360 with a camera. Nobody did that with a camera. Nobody on a spacewalk has done that with a camera. Why? Same reason your soaps do, because you see the other actors and the directors. That's the first thing you would do if you went to the moon, surely.
Oh, you'd see that.
Wouldn't you?
I don't know. I mean, that's a good point.
I mean, that's the first thing you would do. Wow, look at that. Wow, it's amazing. And look back at Earth. Let's turn around. Look at Earth. Oh, they never did that.
Yeah.
That's all to convince you that it's real, but it's in a studio and they've got no real photographs. So they present you in Photoshop, and all this fictitious space travel and space station is to convince you that you live in a ball. And it's a lie. And you've been lied to all your life. And it's difficult for you to accept that. How old are you, if you don't mind me saying?
35.
That's 35 years of indoctrination you've had, and I've had half an hour to try to say what you've been told is all wrong.
Well, I mean, like he said, I don't really believe you, but I think it's a fair question to ponder.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect you to believe me, but I would expect you to go off and have a look at this, what I'm saying. And you will find no real footage of a rocket in space. You'll find no real footage of a satellite in space. No 360 shots.
Let me ask you this.
Just because you don't believe they're real doesn't mean that they're not real. You're saying
there's no proof that it's real, though. That's what I'm saying. I spent 3 years looking for the proof.
That's a different thing, though.
There's millions of people who spent more than 3 years looking for proof, not just me. It doesn't exist.
How many of these people, when you interview them, how many get back to you and say you're right and what you told me is the truth and I researched and found it to be so? Do you have anyone that comes back to you and validates what you're saying?
Yes, not a lot. A few do come back and discuss it. Very interesting. I'm looking into it. I'm not quite there yet, but yes, I could well have been lied to, and I can see how logical that is. Even though you don't think it's logical, you think it's logical to have water on a spinning ball, or I don't. I think it's logical for water to be in a a flat level plane.
Well, what holds the water in if it's a flat level plane?
Why doesn't it just pour off the edges?
Well, why do you assume there's an edge?
So, yeah, okay, so then it just goes on forever.
Well, you're told space goes on forever. Do you question that?
No, I don't question that.
So why would you question if the land goes
I
on
would
forever?
go back to like modeling how the stars move in the sky, and you can probably do it with your flat Earth model, but the math of it's going to be a hell of a lot more complicated. And there's something called Occam's razor.
Yes,
Right? You take
very
the
simple,
simplest
yeah.
solution.
Which
The
is
reason-
a
the
flat
reason-
plane is a lot simpler
Before
solution.
we could ever observe that the Earth was a sphere itself, we had mathematical models that showed that if we made them, we assumed that the Earth was a sphere. It made
Good.
all the mathematical calculations and things like that much easier.
Yes, assuming. But mathematical calculations, that's a language that explains things. It doesn't prove anything.
Well, even in math, you have to assume certain axioms.
Yeah, but axioms. Excuse me, I've been drinking. Axioms don't prove existence of something in nature. Does it?
Well, this is like almost bordering on a religious conversation then, because this is metaphysical. What is real? What is I understand that you can ask those questions, but they're not applicable when we're talking about physical phenomena that we can observe.
Yeah, but I agree with you. It's almost a religious conversation because I think people's belief that we live in a spin ball is religious because it's all beliefs. There's no primary examples or experience.
I feel like we gave you a couple examples of how it works, and you just outright said no, those aren't real.
What were they?
Okay, dropping objects of a similar size,
similar weights,
different densities.
Well, no, the objects you used were of a similar
No, I'm saying
weight.
you can do the experiment on your own. People at home are watching this video. Do that experiment if you want to prove gravity. The second thing you can do is you can do the ship watching thing, if you will. And remember, people, if you're anywhere above the horizon, so if you're flat, yes, you can see 10 miles, but anything above that, simple geometry would tell you that you can see further. Because you're no longer on, it's a triangle, so you're at the hypotenuse, so you're 10 miles, and then you take plus your angle that you are from what you're looking at, and then
But
that's a true distance.
I don't
you can see.
disagree with that. That's natural observations.
Right, but
Common
I'm saying you
sense,
could get yourself a telescope
I have a telescope.
and look at the ship,
I have looked at the ship.
and you will see the ship, and then it will disappear.
Yes.
Just do that,
But-
and then
but-
all of this, you don't have to look any more things
can
up
you-
online.
can
You
you
don't have to
prove why
consider
it's-
anything else. You've done it. It takes you about, well, how long do you think it
Excuse
would
me.
take? 20 minutes.
Can you prove why it's disappeared, though?
It went over the curvature of the Earth.
How can you prove
It's
that?
a reasonable explanation, isn't it?
No, it's not. It is to you. It's not to me.
Well, for your flat Earth, it couldn't disappear over the horizon at all, could it?
This little camera here, 2-inch camera,
Yeah.
if I go to the other end of that park and I put it on the grass level, it'll disappear because it's outlining your perspective.
Well,
It's not going below a curvature.
That's a size thing. So that's what the whole telescope thing is. So you see the chip, and so it goes out of your eye's perspective, and then you get a telescope and you see it.
Yeah.
But at some point, it doesn't matter how big of a telescope you get, you won't be able to see that
Yes,
ship.
I agree. We agree on that
And if
point.
it was flat, it would matter because you could see that ship
Right.
no,
because
I
you
just
just
explained
keep
to
bigger magnification.
Bigger magnification.
I just explained to you why you couldn't see it because this little camera here, I can go and put it at the end of a park or a mile away. You won't see it because it's outlining your perspective.
But if I had binoculars, I could see it.
Yes. Then I go and put it 10 miles away.
Then I get a bigger pair of binoculars.
Yes. And then I put 1,000 miles away.
And then I get a bigger pair of binoculars. According to you, I should be able to see it every
I
time.
put 20,000 miles
I'm
away.
saying at a certain point, no matter what magnification you have, it will still disappear. If you're looking at it through the telescope,
Yeah,
the ship could be this
but
big in your sight,
You keep
and it would
repeating that.
still disappear.
I agree. You keep repeating that. I agreed from the first off that yes, it will disappear, but it's where it disappears to that we differ. Because you think it goes over a curve of the Earth.
What do you think it happens?
It's out your line of perspective.
No, that
No,
doesn't
but
make
that's
sense.
where we're removing the perspective because we're giving you
Infinite
a set
zoom.
of infinite
But you
zoom.
can't because
Yeah.
there's
infinite
atmosphere. There's molecules in the atmosphere. There's grain. There's dirt. There's water. You can't. That blocks
so
your sight.
I'm saying these are reasonable experiments that you can do to convince yourself that there is round.
Well,
but
I've
if
done
you,
these
if you just want to
experiments.
just deny them outright, then there's nothing else I can do.
But I think you're denying what I've said though. all the stuff I put to you, you become very, very defensive, and you.
I don't feel it. I think we've had a good conversation about it. I think
No,
we've been open.
we have. But as soon as I said about the 2 photographs there, you immediately defended the picture.
That picture was terrible.
It's a NASA official picture.
Was it like 20 kilobytes or something like that? Like it's the tiniest, horrible resolution.
I don't know, but although you both be very polite and you've engaged me well, but I still find that you more than your friend are being more resistant to what you've been told. Like, it must be true. It's a fact, and I'm only encouraging people to question what they've been told.
Right.
That's all I'm doing. And I advise you to go and look at this, because I know it's true. I know it's a lie. We've been lied to.
Well, like I said, to end the conversation, because we have to go anyways, but it's something to consider and look into.
Good. Can I just give you one video to go and watch?
Sure.
On YouTube. It convinces everybody.
Okay.
It's called 200 Proofs Why the Earth is Not a Spinning Ball by Eric Dubé.
Eric.
I've heard of this video.
But just put it. Sorry, you've heard of it?
Yeah.
Have you watched it?
Oh, I watched a debunking video of his debunking video.
Yeah, but that's not very sensible, is it?
Well, no, it's funny.
Sure, you have
They're
to,
basically making fun of the video.
yeah, but surely you have to watch it firsthand yourself.
I mean, I don't know if I have time for that.
How long is it?
But you have time
It's
to watch.
200 facts, so it's going to be a while.
You only have to watch 10, and it'll get you thinking.
Well, that's true. I mean, we watch it and see what it says.
It works out. It starts off with very basic observations you can do yourself.
I mean, just remember that people can convince other people to drink Kool-Aid that they know has cyanide in it. So the point being, you can convince people of pretty much anything.
Yeah,
that doesn't make it right or true.
No, but you were convinced it's a ball. It doesn't make it right.
I'm telling you, you can go and do physical experiments to prove to
You drink
yourself that it is.
Coca-Cola?
No.
Do you?
What's that?
Drink Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
It's horse piss. It's got horse piss in it.
I mean, maybe. Yeah. Horse piss is probably not that bad. It's just got a bad stigma.
Probably not,
towards
but like your friend was saying, yeah, they convince us to take anything. Tell us that it's good for us. Because
Exactly.
We don't research it for
The point
ourselves.
being is like you can convince someone that the Earth's flat even if it's not. I'm not saying that it is flat or not flat. I'm just saying if you can convince someone to kill themselves, you can convince someone that the Earth is like you could convince someone that water was dry. If
How would you do that?
I'm not that good at convincing people, but there are people out there really good at convincing people.
I don't think you can convince anybody of a self-evident
I
truth.
catch a popsicle and a lady in a white dress.
Yeah, exactly. People convince people to like give up all their money to them
Yeah, but not
all the time. That happens every day. It's probably happening right now somewhere in this city.
You can't convince a self-evident truth, though.
Earth being flat is not a self-evident truth in its own right. I'm saying like
Well, there's some exercises you can do that are self-evident.
before we ever observe
like
the
water,
Earth.
water doesn't bend. Water cannot conform to the exterior of a shape. Water always finds its own level. That's a self-evident truth.
On this scale,
On any scale.
on the scale that humans are used to observing.
On any scale.
Well, you know, we don't know that. We're not a bird.
The physics of water finds its own level. Now, you can't argue against that, because in nature and everywhere, that's how water behaves. But we're supposed to take a big leap of faith and believe it can exist on an ice side of a ball.
Did you see that guy? What was his name? Felix something. He jumped from the air balloon. Did you see that? You should watch that video because he jumps from the stratosphere.
The stratosphere. You see that?
And it tapes the whole thing. I watched it
He
live.
skydives.
I've got it on my phone there, showing you photographs using a fisheye lens, showing a curvature, because it curves everything.
Right.
But then you see it from inside his capsule, and you see a completely flat level horizon, contradicting what he's shown you on his helmet.
All right, man. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Hey, it was nice talking to you.
What's your name?
You took